Hello, and welcome to another Sinister Sunday. Today we're going to Cape May, New Jersey, to one of the oldest residential streets there, Hughes Street, and we're going to visit the Cherry House. Cape May streets are lined with beautiful and historic homes, built by notable architects for some of the city's most influential families. The Cherry House on Hughes Street is an excellent example. Supposedly built by notable local Lemuel Lemming in 1849, the federal style architecture harks the bygone age when Cape May's thriving tourist trade made the city the queen of seaside resorts. The house, or parts of it, is old for sure, but there are some odd quirks in the old girl's history. In Cape May, federal style architecture had mostly given way to Victorian architecture by 1849, and Lemming only owned the property for 5 months. If he built it, he was a fast carpenter indeed. Could be the home or part of it had been built before 1849. Is the elegant federal style facade just that, a facade? Added onto an existing structure? Was the original building used as slave quarters? Like most buildings in Cape May, the Cherry House has been added to, renovated, and rehabilitated so many times it's difficult to tell what came first and what was added later. The last slaves in Cape May County were freed in 1823. The island itself was heavily influenced by Quakers from nearby Salem County, who did not believe in slavery, and the founding Presbyterians in Cape May Point, who were more interested in converts. So it's quite possible that it was servant quarters. The Cherry House is currently the home of Frank and Beth Acker, and maybe a ghost or two. The Pennsylvania natives bought the home in May 2000. Before that, the home belonged to Lois Cope, who bought the home in 1969 and stayed there until she was in her 90s. Lois's family was amongst the founders of Bucknell University. It seems Lois was very fond of the house and may have stuck around to make sure it was well cared for. Beth, one of the current owners of the house, said that when they first bought the house and their first winter in the house, they would close the doors to save on heat in certain rooms. Well, they'd find them open all the time. It was only her and her husband Frank, and she kept telling Frank to close them. But he insisted he was closing them. We also have heard some noises too, Beth said, and we have an issue with a rocking chair. There was motion in the house. We were going for lunch one day and we closed all the doors, for certain. When we came back, all the doors were open. But we just lived with it. In fact, the neighbors told us there had been sightings of an elderly gentleman on the steps. But I didn't pay any attention because I always had a good feeling about the house. Beth stated a year after they moved in, they were renovating the kitchen over the winter. We were in Pennsylvania at the time. We had a friend come and check in on the house. He told us the workers were leaving the doors opened. I called the builders and he said he was closing the doors. So the workers got really into it and would deadbolt the door from the inside while they were there. But when they looked back, they'd be open again. This goes on, and it gets to be a game. Then one day a contractor came in to use the phone. All of a sudden the room got real cold, and out from the wall comes a full-bodied apparition of an old lady. He went screaming out the back door and never came back. Beth seems to think that it's probably Lois checking in on them. The workers met up at the Seaview later, and the guy told the story. But we haven't heard anything since then. According to Beth, the name Cherry House comes from a family that owned it in 1920s. Lucy Bolton Cherry purchased the house in 1925 and paid $6,000 for it. She stayed there for 22 years. Beth wanted to go back even further, so she traced it, and it went all the way back to the Revolutionary War. Well, the property did anyway. Back then, Hughes Street was just a cow patch on the plantation of Mameken Hughes. FYI, his house is said to be haunted too. His son Israel and his 6 kids inherited the land with the house, and the other parcel of land Sophia Hughes inherited, which is the lot where the Cherry House stands. Sophia Hughes was married to Aaron Bennett, and they had 6 children also. She died 3 years after her inheritance. So in March 1849, Mr. Lemming purchased the lot for $265 and the property at the end of the street for $164. He sold the property 5 months later to Samuel and Martha Swine for $300. So all accounts lead that if he bought the plot of land that the Cherry House sits on now for $100 more than the other land, most likely there was some kind of structure. And judging from the basement, you could tell there's been a lot of modifications to the house. So there was some kind of structure, and so the house, parts of it anyway, is probably older than 1849. And remember Lucy Cherry? She sold the house to a man named Hogan for $1 and then bought it back the same day for $1. What kind of shady stuff was going on here? The house has passed through several different families, including the Miller family. Jonas Miller built the first Congress Hall in the 1890s, the Cherry family in 1920 and 1930, and several other owners in the mid-century. John Heckel, a local dentist, owned it in 1960, until Lois purchased it in 1969. Beth, the current owner, was contacted by a woman a little while ago saying that she was born in the house. Her maiden name was Cherry, and her grandparents owned the house. Another woman stopped by in the summer and told her she was married in the house. Her name was Specht. The Spects owned the house in the late 50s. With the property being part of the Revolutionary War and all these owners, do we think there's only 2 ghosts there? The apparition of the old man who just stares at the neighbors from the stairs, and the old woman who likes to float through walls and scare people. But who else is lurking on that property that we don't know about? Thank you so much for watching another Sinister Sunday. If you're not subscribed, consider subscribing and check out the Sinister Sunday playlist for more content like this. We'll see you next weekend.